Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Good Morning Britain sparks uproar as Ed Balls clashes with guest in excruciating debate. Good Morning Britain viewers were left up in arms after watching an excruciating debate unfold over the doctors' pay rise for the NHS. Good Morning Britain sparked fury as Ed Balls quizzed a guest on the backlash from NHS doctors over the latest government pay rise proposal. Last week, doctors denounced pay rises of up to 5.4% as derisory and threatened to take action in protest. The decision to award 1.4 million NHS staff, including nurses, midwives, and ambulance workers, a smaller rise of 3.6%, also provoked criticism. During Thursday's visit, May 29, to the ITV studios, the 58-year-old broadcaster welcomed Reem Ibrahim from the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, and Dr. Ross Newwood from the Resident Doctors Committee to discuss whether or not the NHS should be banned from striking. It didn't take long before emotions started to run high when the guest shut down ideas that doctors should receive a further pay rise following strike rumors. The pair began the discussion by debating the current doctors' strike after Health Secretary Wes Streetling warned that resident doctors would choke the NHS by going back on strike. In a BBC interview, the MP urged resident doctors to work with the government and warned strikes risked hampering the process being made in the NHS. Reem argued that NHS doctors could receive a higher salary by looking closer at the social healthcare system as a whole. Ed Balls added, "The striking thing to me in that poll is that 40% of people do support the doctors going on strike, even though it would mean cancelled operations and loads of disruption. Is it that because people know junior doctors' pay fell behind year after year, they know that the resident doctors do very difficult work and don't get paid a big salary, and actually they think they've got a fair case? Compared to 15 years ago, they get paid a lot less than private sector workers." Reem argued, "This is the fundamental point here. Public sector workers and the pay that they receive has to be seen in the context of public sector spending. We already spend PS 200 billion a year on the NHS. Ed interjected with, "Yes, in a labor market," to which she countered, "If it was in the labor market, then it would be in the private sector. That's the point. This is a public sector." But the former Tory MP failed to see her point of view and argued that plenty of doctors are changing from the public sector to the private sector to receive a fair living wage. He fumed. "Why? The public and the private sector have to compete for workers, and if the pay of public workers falls behind private workers, then people go and work in the private sector." She went on, "This is the point. They don't compete. There is one national health service, and that is the problem with socialized health care." Ed pointed out, "There's plenty of people who work in the private sector. There are countries around the world advertising for doctors to relocate. Look, tell me if I'm wrong, but there are lots of doctors leaving the NHS to go and work in other countries around the world because pay has fallen behind. It's surprising to me to have someone from the Institute of Economic Affairs who doesn't believe in markets," he snapped. "Reem, I absolutely believe in markets, but the NHS is not a market, it's a socialized healthcare system. That is the fundamental point. If doctors want to be paid more, then let's look at a social healthcare system," Reem said. "Let's look at countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark that have public and private partnerships where there is competition." She added, "What I would like to see is the National Health Service as a whole, the spending that we're using at the moment, being used more efficiently."